This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. Hello, this is Gray Hughes of Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. An arrest has been made in the Dylan Rounds murder case out of Lucin, Utah. Dylan Rounds was a budding farmer who had just purchased some property along with his grandfather in the area and was going to start planting crops. The individual that was arrested is James Brenner. He's been charged with aggravated murder, first-degree felony, and abuse or desecration of a dead human body, which is a third-degree felony. James Brenner is somebody who has been a suspect in the case and the likely culprit for quite some time. Early on, he had given guns that he kept in his trailer to another individual to keep authorities from finding them. So let's take a look at the arrest warrant. Now, East Idaho News has made this available for everyone. So thank you to East Idaho News and especially to Nate Eaton, who is an absolutely amazing reporter for East Idaho News and was basically the first person to be covering the Lori and Chad Daybell case and many others. I'm not sure what's in the water in the Idaho and Utah area, but something's going on there. Let's take a look at the probable cause document. The 19-year-old victim was reported as a missing person on or about May 30th, 2022. We know now that he went missing on May 28th at around 6:51 in the morning when he contacted his grandmother and let her know, well, at least during the conversation, he let her know that it was about to rain, so he needed to move his seeds that he had in his seed truck under a shelter because once water gets in there, it can spoil the entire container of seeds. So he was going to go take those to a seed shed not too far away. Sheriff deputies, along with search and rescue crews, immediately got to work on efforts to locate the victim, but were unsuccessful. During the search, deputies discovered a pair of boots belonging to the victim nearby. One boot had a blood stain that DNA analysis confirmed belonged to the victim in addition to DNA belonging to the defendant. The victim's phone records were also obtained, which showed movement on the day of his disappearance on a property in Lucin, and the property is where he stored the seed in a seed shed. And I'll show you where that is in a few minutes. And again, this is on a remote property in Lucin, but the defendant lived there. He was squatting there in a trailer. Phone data showed that the last signal from the victim's phone was at the Lucin pond, and a search of the pond led to the discovery of the victim's phone. And here's where it's just absolutely incredible. A digital forensic download of the phone was conducted and led to the discovery of a time-lapse video with a timestamp taken at the time of the victim's disappearance. The video showed the defendant with blood stains on his arms and shirt as he is cleaning a gun. The shirt, which defendant is wearing, in the mobile home was analyzed and the victim's DNA was found on the shirt. Defendant was interviewed and made several claims that corroborated forensic evidence in addition to making numerous demonstrably false statements. Despite a thorough investigation and extensive search, the victim's body was not recovered due to defendant removing and concealing it. That is absolutely incredible. You wonder how the camera happened to be angled in such a way that it would film him cleaning the gun and showing his arms. Was it next to a sink and he put it right next to the sink and it was recording him? Was he not aware of it? Did Dylan... I originally thought, man, maybe Dylan started recording, but if you're already at the point where you're cleaning the gun, this must be some time after the killing. So it makes you think that the phone was on. That must be somewhat close because it doesn't seem like Dylan's phone was locked at this point, but we don't know if he had it set up to do that. But was it the camera function on, and then when Brenner picked it up, he started it, and it started recording what was going on? We don't know, but it's amazing how cases have things like this. You know, you could look at the Delphi case, a case using Snapchat where Libby filmed the suspect just before the suspect ended up killing both of them. And it's become a huge portion of the investigation because the description of the killer is how law enforcement is linking the individual who's been arrested with the individual that was captured on Libby's telephone. Also in the Alec Murdaugh case, you have the situation where Paul Murdaugh was down at the kennels in that case and just happened to be filming one of the dogs in the kennels for his friend. And in the background, another dog named Bubba had a bird in its mouth, and it's only because of that we hear Alex Murdaugh's voice at around 8:45 in the evening, and that's the time where he claimed he was napping, and that was a key, huge piece of information in that case that led to his conviction. Remember the Jodi Arias case, which is even more similar, where in that case she had been filming Travis in the shower and eventually got him seated and then shot him. And then after the struggles and the knife was out, the camera somehow was put on the ground upside down, and during the movements in the hallway at various times the camera was nudged, and based on the way that camera is, it would take photographs, and it took 3 photographs of the actual murder of Travis Alexander, and that was a absolutely huge portion of convicting her in that case as well. So it's incredible how there are so many cases out there where just little snippets of even accidental or intentional video out there have led to convictions and arrests in cases. So let's take a look at how this went down. Dylan Rounds lived right here. He has trailers around. This is an older 2019 shot. This is March 2020. He still doesn't have his trailers and whatnot in here, but there's the pond. And that morning, he was talking to his grandmother, and he told her he needed to get his seed truck under some shelter. So that was at 6:51 in the morning. And then he drives this way, heads up like this. And here is where the seed shed was, and he backed it in. And there's even, look at that, even has a grain shed Dylan Round. So it's right there on Google Earth. And that's interesting. Somebody must have added that there. So that's a grain truck, and it was backed in. And then also, you know, it could be something like this where James Brenner lived in a trailer. So it could have been that one, but I've seen other photos more recently where there's other trailers around. But he backed in right there. And then right over here, you can make it out pretty well, there's a mound, and his boots, his 2 pair of boots were found behind there, and one of the boots had blood on it, and it was Dylan Round's blood. And they also found DNA of James Brenner on this. Now, it's still baffling why he put the boots back there, though. It's kind of confusing. Did he remove all of Dylan Round's clothing and put him somewhere? I mean, I'm not really sure why you'd have to have the boots taken off. is something that doesn't really make a ton of sense unless he felt like the boots wouldn't be able to be wouldn't disappear quick enough because of what they're made out of. I don't really know. It's pretty interesting though. And then they found Dylan's phone in Lucin Pond, which is right here. Now I don't see water in the pond now, but you can see that there's trees around, so maybe it's some sort of a spring, and that's where his phone was found. So was that when he was on his way out? Now I don't know what mode of transportation that James Brenner had, but it's also possible that he walked back this way and somehow got over to Dylan Round's property after having, taking his keys and then getting into Dylan's truck, driving it back, taking Dylan's body somewhere over here, dropping the phone off first, and then heading up into here somewhere. Unless James Brenner says where he put the body, maybe if they can get the death penalty going, although I don't know if you can have a death penalty case without a body, I'm not really sure. But they need something to negotiate with James Brenner so that he will say where Dylan Round's body is. All right, so great news. I did email Candace Cooley, Dylan Round's mother, and I said, hey, sorry for the news, but, they've already known that somebody had killed him, and that justice is coming, and she said, yes, it is. So that's great news, and for all of you out there that were thinking that Candace Cooley is part of the murder somehow, start reevaluating the way you think about things. All right? So thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you could hit that like, share, and subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. And as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there.